This today on ESPN.com, survey says that Americans are expected to bet $23.1 billion on the Super Bowl. That's B for billion. Approximately 67.8 million adults, which is 26% of the adult population in the U.S., could combine to bet that $23.1 billion. This according to a survey by the American Gaming Association. But whoo, baby, that is a lot of money.
Well, speaking of that money, for those of you who like Travis Kelce, Christian McCaffrey, and Patrick Mahomes overs in Sunday's Super Bowl, bet them now because they're only going to go up, especially Kelce, once Taylor Swift's army takes aim at the books. This is one of the few events where the public can significantly influence the market because of the sheer volume of action. And as we all know, the public loves to bet overs. So if you like Kelce, McCaffrey, Mahomes overs, you bet them now. If you like the unders, you can wait until this weekend.
Sounded like a public service announcement. Joe, Aaron, let's spend the beginning of the show talking about rushing and receiving props for the big game. CMC, the highest rushing prop, 90.5. Isaiah Pacheco, a bit lower at 65.5, which he has cleared in all 3 playoff games. Travis Kelce has a receiving prop of 70.5, a number he has cleared in each playoff game this year. Brandon Ayuk, the highest yardage prop in the Niner pass catching core, it's a bit lower at 61.5. And some reception props for Rashee Rice. His line set at 6.5 after he hauled in 8 balls last week. Deebo Samuel is at 4.5. Samuel is coming off an 8-catch game in the NFC title game against the Detroit Lions. So, as promised, we're going to continue our deep dive into player props and check out these trends I have for you guys from ESPN Bet. At the moment, the most bet rushing prop, that would be Isaiah Pacheco over his rushing yardage prop. 89% of the bets on the over, 61.2% of the handle on the over. Joe, does that surprise you?
A little, because of Christian McCaffrey and how popular he is. But if you're going to be looking at Isaiah Pacheco in this game to hit over this mark, you probably think he'll be running the ball into the fourth quarter. If he's running the ball into the fourth quarter, perhaps that means Christian McCaffrey isn't, because the Niners are trailing and the Niners need to throw the football. So allow me to offer up an alternative to this.
Okay.
Isaiah Pacheco to lead everyone in the game in rushing plus 150.
Oh.
He's led everyone in the game in rushing in all 3 playoff games he's been in so far. And he's going to see a lot of the workload. So if Kansas City plays with a lead and you think they're going to win, and McCaffrey's more involved in the passing game late, Pacheco could lead all rushers, plus 150 is a nice payout.
There is a game script dependent prop to lean into. I like it if you like the Chiefs. Speaking of Pacheco, Aaron, I hear you have a special market on ESPN Bet involving the KC running back. What is it?
So I would rather look at Pacheco rushing attempts rather than his rushing yards. Now, we know what the line's at 15.5, but I bought it down to 14.5. You can add it into a parlay right now on ESPN Bet with the Chiefs to win, Pacheco over 14.5 rushing attempts, and Patrick Mahomes over 4.5 rushing attempts as well. You get that around plus 250 on ESPN Bet. We'll kick it off with Pacheco. The reason being that I'm looking at his attempts is the fact that this guy's averaging 21 rush attempts per game this postseason. Now, he's been able to hit over this mark in 2 of those 3 games. The one game he did end with 15 rushing attempts. And I think the team's going to continue to rely on him and lean on him. And it's a way to really exploit that 49ers defense. So rather than looking at the rushing yards again, going back to the attempts market, pulling it down 1, just add it into that same game parlay. But again, that's available right now on ESPN Bet.
Joe, are you with 98% of the people out there?
First off, this will be a tremendous sweat. Every time you even think you see him checking into the game, please God, either give him the ball or don't give him the ball. I think it's a great bet to go the other way.
Okay.
I would go completely the other way. I think people are playing this because of what they saw in the NFC Championship game where he got 4 carries. He only got 4 carries because Christian McCaffrey got hurt at the end of the game. Otherwise, they wouldn't have used him at all. He got 1 snap total against Green Bay. 1, because they were trailing in that game and they wanted to use McCaffrey. Mitchell's been inactive in 5 regular season games this year. I think this is essentially the following bet. Will Christian McCaffrey get hurt? If Christian McCaffrey gets hurt, he's going to go over. If Christian McCaffrey doesn't get hurt, he's in the whole game. I think the backup running back is Deebo Samuel. I think they're going to use him to rush and Kyle Juszczyk to rush more than Mitchell. So I play the under.
I could not agree with you more.
Yeah.
I'm on the under there, and I think you lay out exactly what the handicap is. And I am not in the business of handicapping, even in a sport like football, when an injury is going to happen. So assuming that CMC is healthy enough from the start of the game till the clock hits 0, I do not think he comes off the field in almost any circumstance for Kyle Shanahan's offense.
One scenario that we didn't account for, San Francisco blowing out Kansas City.
Oh.
You like the Chiefs, though, so
I do
you're
like
probably
the
not too worried.
Chiefs. That would be one where he gets some mop-up duty.
Hell of a way to go
but
down.
It's not one that I am seeing. All right. Joe, the biggest bet that we have seen thus far in the prop market on Niners tight end George Kittle to go over 43.5 receiving yards. It was a $10,500 bet that would return $7,500. Aaron, was that you?
Tyler, that was not me. A little bit surprised by this. I mean, it makes sense if people are thinking, he's going to be open because the cornerbacks are going to attack some of the other players. But at the same time, are we a little bit worried about this toe injury? I mean, we're talking about it on SportsCenter that he missed 3 days of practice this past week. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. He is averaging 41 receiving yards in the 11 games that he's played, including 2 touchdowns. And yes, he could be vital to this offense, but at the same time, I'm not sure how often and how much Purdy really is going to be throwing in this game. I do think they'll end up leaning on Christian McCaffrey. So the importance here is just how much coverage is George Kittle actually going to get. But because of that injury and things that are going on with that toe, I personally would not want to bet into this. And a little bit surprised to see that's the most money we're seeing so far on one of those props.
Kansas City has been pretty good against opposing tight ends this year. They faced Mark Andrews, who albeit banged up last week, and Isaiah Likely. But if you combine the output in that game, it was only 4 receptions for 41 yards. So the tight ends did not have a lot of success from Baltimore. Now, no one had any success from Baltimore in that game. I would be looking to the under there, but it's not a strong play.
All right, let's move to Deebo Samuel, guys, because ESPN Bet is telling us that the sharpest play, or the wise guys play in the market, is Deebo Samuel over 13.5 rushing yards. They're getting bets from people they respect on the over for Deebo. This has gone under in both playoff games that we have seen Deebo play, but he's been given some opportunities. So do you like this one?
Well, he got hurt against the Packers, and then he was kind of limited against Detroit in that game. I love this. This opened 13.5. It's up to 16.5. I love it. I think it's too low.
Okay.
I think his rushing attempts is like 1.5, which 2.5 right there on the screen. I think that's low too. How dense do you have to be if you're Kyle Shanahan and everyone talks for 2 weeks about how stupid Baltimore was for not running the ball, and then you come out with one of the league's top rushing attacks and you decide, you know what? I'm going to do what Baltimore did. I'm going to throw at Kansas City and not run the ball. Like, that's galaxy brain stuff. Go into this game. You have Christian McCaffrey, you have Deebo Samuel. Run the football. That's the weak spot. Baltimore couldn't figure it out. I would like to believe you can. I think he's going to be involved big time in this game.
I agree. I think he's going to be a massive part of the game plan. He should be, assuming rational coaching. So whether it's through the air.
Big assumption.
Exactly. Through the air or on the ground, I like him to be a big part of that offense. All right. Not surprisingly, guys, the heaviest market involves Travis Kelce. Over 6.5 receptions for Patrick Mahomes, top target. Aaron, which side would you be on?
Oh, Tyler, I would be on the under here, and that's really hard for me to say considering Kelce. He has 156 receptions in the postseason. That is the most ever in the NFL, okay? This guy is nonstop going to be probably Patrick Mahomes' target, but at the same time, last week we saw, or I should say in the AFC Championship, we saw how many guys were involved for that offense, and I also like the Kansas City Chiefs to run the ball a ton in this. I'm also just concerned about betting any Travis Kelce props for the mere fact of just how many people are going to be on these, and everyone's thinking that everything's going to be an over, everything's going to be a touchdown, everything's going to be the Super Bowl MVP if they win. So I've been more so staying away from these, but I do feel like it's an under considering 10 of his last 12 games, we've seen the under 6.5 receptions. So it's probably more of a stay away for me, but again, I'd go under 6.5 if I had to.
This freaking guy is always open. It's always open. You can find great value all the time in his unders, and then he's always wide open. And Mahomes always gets in the ball. Look at the game plan against Baltimore, how many times they just flicked it into the flat or flicked it 5 yards out. They're not trying to kill you down the field. That's where the receiving yards would burn you. The receptions, I mean, what are his targets going to be in this game? You think he's going to have less than 10 targets in this game? If he gets 10 targets, is he not capable of catching 7, especially if it's a lot of short, high percentage throws? I'm not playing the over. I'm like Aaron. I lean to pass, but it would be an over rather than an under. I don't like betting unders on this. The guy is always involved. They show his girlfriend at every turn. You know they're going to want to get him involved. Nance is going to be radioing down to throw it to him so that they can show the girlfriend. It's a whole conspiracy theory. It's the whole thing.
I like you guys, probably pass, but side with the under like Aaron. Fred Warner is a great coverage linebacker in the middle of the field. That's where the strength of the Niners defense is. However, it's like betting under on Steph Curry three-pointers.
Right.
How comfortable are you going to be, just regardless of how great the defense is, against a guy who is always open and will be force-fed the rock by Patrick Mahomes? All right, much
Yeah,
more.
any under for Kelce is just uncomfortable, no matter what.
Is he suddenly just
In a
not
big
going to be
game like
involved in
this.
the offense? I mean, it just doesn't happen.
Good luck to those who want to do it. By all means, the world is your oyster.